Job Hunting
101.
Providing you with the tools you need in your job search. Job Hunting
101.
Thank you for tuning in to Getting the Most Out of Your Job and Career Fair, part of the Job Hunting Series 101. My name is Maria Suarez. I am the Business Services Lead Recruiter for Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance, and I'm joined here today with Tim Harding from the University of Tampa and Stefan Hester with NSource.
Hi, my name is Tim Harding. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm the Associate Dean of Career Development and Engagement at the University of Tampa. In my role there at the university, I work with students to educate them on job search strategies. Among them are succeeding at career fairs.
Okay.
Nice. And my name is Stefan Hester. I work for NSource, and we are an outsourcing consulting firm. And basically, we provide services for large law firms and investment banks and do business functional outsourcing.
Okay. So as mentioned before, we're going to talk about job fairs and career fairs. Is there a difference between a job fair and a career fair?
It really depends on who's advertising the fair, but most of the time the biggest difference is if it's a career fair, it's going to have more than just jobs. For example, there might be colleges there or technical schools or graduate schools that are participating, so it's not exclusively jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that the career fair would depend on more based on the education and training aspect.
Okay, so it depends on the employers or vendors that would be participating in the fair. What would be the purpose of a job fair or career fair for the employers?
You need to network with those that are seeking employment. You can really find out what the talent pool is. If you have specific jobs that you're trying to advertise and get candidates for, obviously it's a great place to go. But if you're looking to expand your business or you're looking to maybe open a different line of business, it's another way to explore talent and begin to build your talent pool before you even do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, yeah, it's mutually exclusive for the employer and the applicant, that you do get that networking aspect.
Right.
And I think it's probably a lot to ask probably that you're going to get a job day one when you walk into one of these career fairs, but you do get to understand more about the companies that are out there, meet with the companies, see what they're looking for, see if you line up with them. But I think it's just an interactive environment for to see what's in the field.
Okay. How can a job seeker prepare before attending a career fair?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to get in the right mindset of why you're going and know why you're going and do your preparation. And among those things are things like professional dress. You need to set yourself apart by dressing the part of the role that you want as an employee. But I would also say you need to find out, if you can, what companies are going to be there. Do an inventory of those companies to understand what they're about. Prioritize those companies. Who do I want to really see? Who's my second tier? I don't know that much about them, but I'd like to check them out anyway. And then you have to know yourself. You have to prepare yourself going into a situation like that. And by that I mean, how am I going to introduce myself? Do I have my resume ready? Different kinds of things like that will help you succeed at a job fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very important to know what you're looking for when you come to that career fair, that you have that path that you want to follow, and you're seeing which companies and networking lines up for you. So in going into that, you really need to have almost your elevator conversation ready to go, that 20 to 30 second, who am I, what am I looking for, and how can we achieve that?
And one thing I would add too, the elevator speech is right on. The one thing I would add is practice. Practice that elevator speech before you go in, because if you're going to an employer that you really want to work for and you haven't practiced your elevator speech and you don't feel comfortable with it and you go just kind of cold turkey in there, you're probably not going to represent yourself as well. So practice that elevator speech.
Yeah, it should be really conversational. I mean, at the end of the day, both people are trying to find out information about each other and how they can work together.
Do you find that having a resume handy is always the best way to present yourself or follow up for the job, or possibly sending an email with the resume as a contact, or do you take the resumes with you and actually follow up with those resumes that you've received at the job fair?
My recommendation is always both. I think you should go to a job fair prepared with resumes. It's ideal to have a pad folio that you can tuck your resumes down into, so you have easy access to them. It's hard to target your resume because there may be different kinds of companies there that would be of interest in different kinds of with job responsibilities that are different. So you want to target your resume. You can do that with the follow-up, but I think you want to have a resume when you go in. The one thing you don't want to do is just walk up and pitch that resume to somebody and say, here's my resume, what kind of jobs do you have? You want to start with that elevator conversation and build up to this conversational networking that leads to, I'd like to share my resume with you.
Right, and I think that the resume is a great takeaway. I don't think, like you, to Tim's point, you don't need to speak to everything on the resume, and you have that elevator speech, but it's something that they can grab and go away, and they can have notes for, all right, who is this person? What did they say? What was important that they showed about themselves while they were there? And also with the follow-up, I think that's huge. I know that stands out to me when I meet someone and then they respond back to me later on with the follow-up.
One interesting thing that's happening that I think it really needs to be noted is that some employers aren't taking resumes at a job fair, and that shouldn't discourage you. If an employer does not take your resume, doesn't mean they're not interested. Typically what they're going to do is they may be tracking their applicants for federal regulation reasons, and so you have to apply online. So don't be discouraged if an employer doesn't take your resume. It's just that they're requiring you to go through their system to apply.
Right. But do always bring one. I know that they take and keep a record of usually when you come and drop one off to show that you were actually there, and even though you did apply on the website. But it's definitely nice to have that couple of bullet points about yourself and some of the achievements. I probably wouldn't deliver your entire resume of your 4 or 5 page, here's everything that I've ever done since I was 3 years old. But something to, like I said, take away as the highlights, that one pager.
And do you feel like business casual, or what's the best look? Of course, they're going to be looking for a job. They want to have that business appearance, but would a full suit or would business casual be the best dress?
My recommendation is always to be professionally dressed. You always want to put your best foot forward. That's what the employer thinks that you're doing.
Right.
So it's worth doing. And even if it's challenging, I know professional dress can be expensive, but there are some discount retailers where you can get professionally looking designed clothing that you can wear that's suitable. You always want to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, and also do your research on a little bit about the company and the culture. If it's some kind of marketing position where they are known for their very relaxed atmosphere, you can probably tailor that accordingly. And it also probably depends on the career fair. If it's formally a suit and tie kind of thing, maybe you amend your dress appropriately.
Okay. What about the job seekers who have limited time? Usually they have limited time at these events. When they're doing the one-on-one with the rep standing there, what's the best thing that they would probably say about them? Like you said, you don't want them their whole life history, but what bullets would stand out to you?
I would say relevant work experience, the different achievements that you've done in the past couple of years. I probably wouldn't fill it up too much with different objectives that may limit you for if you're bringing your resume to multiple different jobs at the career fair. Because your objective could be potentially way off from what that company is looking for. So, but yeah, I would say definitely relevant work experience, highlights about yourself, achievements.
I agree 100%. We really try to get students to learn how to talk about their values, their interests, their personality, their skills as they're relevant to a job, and to really focus on that instead of going with a particular job title to an employer or really focusing on a very limited area. Talk about who you are and what you want to do with your skills, and let the employer also have an opportunity to think about where that might match with opportunities that they have.
When approaching an employer at a job fair, what would be the right questions for them to ask the employers?
Again, the first comments are always the elevator speech. And I think I would follow that with an opening. Could you tell me about opportunities that you might have with your company that match the kind of skills that I possess? I think that gets the conversation going and the dialogue.
Yeah, and I like some pointed questions. I think a little bit about maybe the company, kind of showing that you have done your research, maybe trends in the market or industry that they're in. Kind of helps so that they can answer that. They can give a little bit about what they're going through, maybe even some of the technology updates that they're doing that you can then add in your achievements and tie it back into why you would be a good fit for whatever they're advertising.
And one thing that a little tip that we always give our students when they go to a career fair, you may be in a line, especially for a popular employer, you may be in a line of people waiting to talk to a recruiter. And as you get closer to the table, you're going to be able to hear the conversation that's going on with the person that's dialoguing with the recruiter at that time. Even though our parents taught us not to eavesdrop, this is the time you can eavesdrop. Because if you're listening to what their conversation is, you have time to really prepare your thoughts about how you match what they're looking for. And so when you step up to that recruiter and begin that conversation, you're doing exactly what Stefan's talking about. You're adapting, to what they're looking for, and you can talk about your relevance to them.
Is there any questions to avoid when meeting the employer, not to ask them?
I would not ask salary.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely agree on that one.
Yeah. Or benefits,
Right.
really. That's not the time to do that.
Okay.
I think it's important to kind of stick with the questions that are really going to show that it's you're there to help that company and what you can do to help and get into that. I wouldn't pull it on to. I think the questions about benefits and salary tend to be more about yourself, and it really should be more focused on what you can do for this company and what this company can do for you, I think, but not as far as salary and benefits, I'd say.
Right. One question that I think they should ask is, how can I follow up? How should I follow up with you? Before they leave that table, they want to know the best way to contact that recruiter afterwards. So that's a question they should.
Yeah, and probably what you're expecting from the candidate.
Yeah.
So would a question maybe asking what the company does, is that kind of a turnoff because they should have already know what the company does? Do you feel like that's something that you would want to spend time on explaining to someone who's coming up to your table?
I would say that I like, it depends on the company, I would say probably, but I like curiosity. I want them to show that they have done their research and they kind of have their bearings on generally about what the company does, and then with that they can ask more in-depth questions and get onto it. But I think curiosity is great. But it's important for them to validate what they know about the company.
I agree.
What advice would you give to job seekers that are nervous networkers?
That's probably the biggest challenge because it's not natural for most people. And again, practice is part of it, and preparation. So if you're doing the research that you need to do on the companies, I think that's a really important thing to do. So you have knowledge going into it. And you're the one that knows yourself the best. You're the one that can talk about yourself the best. So you have to practice the ability to do that. One thing that I think is a good tip for people too who have some kind of nervousness as they're going into a job fair. When you prepare, you choose the companies that are your top priorities, the ones that maybe you don't know as much about, but you're curious, and there are going to be some that you're really not that interested in. I always recommend that you go to one of those, the ones that you're not really interested in, to do practice, to start kind of getting that nervousness out by going through the routine. And if you don't do well at that one, nothing's lost because you really weren't interested in that company anyway.
Right. I can't agree more. I think it's very important to get your feet wet with it and get a little traction moving. But it's important to know that the employer, I think, realizes that it is an awkward meeting. You're trying to put your best foot forward in 30 seconds. So there should be some nervousness involved, I think. And I think a good employer, as far as facilitating the conversation, would be able to work with you on that. And I don't think it'd be a bad thing to also ask for feedback as well. For what were you looking for on this? How could have I answered this better? Because like we said, it's a networking, and maybe it's not this position, but it's the one down the line as well. Setting up that connection.
Are the company reps that usually attend the job fairs, are they usually the decision makers that attend the event?
I think it really depends.
Yeah, a smaller company maybe. Some of the larger ones, if you have Citi or JP Morgan, it's probably not going to be the hiring manager. But I still think it's important that you need to put your best foot forward on that. They may not be the person that's actually handing you the position, but they are that next step. And they're the ones who are going to say, wow, I met this person, I really don't know anything about that position, but I would recommend this person, or I would push them to the next level.
Do employers participate in fairs thinking the event will bring new hires, or are they just seeing what's out there in the market?
Sometimes it's both. I think a lot of employers, when they register for a job fair, they may register a month in advance for a job fair, and they may be aware of certain positions that are open at the time. The thing that you want to always remember as a job seeker is they did register a while ago, and so there may be additional positions that they're looking at too. So they may have only advertised a certain set, but there may be additional positions that open. I mean, job changing happens almost daily, right, in most of our companies. So the same is true for those employers. There will be those that are just there sourcing, though.
Right. Yeah, and I think to that point, just check the website as well to make sure that I think they usually update right before the event what some of the things that they are advertising for the event.
So also just getting a pool of candidates as well as the positions that are probably open that they're sourcing for. Right. What qualities would you say are impressive to a rep attending a job fair to ask for more information about the job seeker attending and make?
Yeah, and I think that kind of one of the points I brought up earlier is asking questions about trends in the area. What they expect to see, but I want to see that they've engaged with the material, check the website out, kind of reverberating back some of the facts that, if you had done the research, you would have found.
And sometimes it's not just words; it's your body language. So you always want to appear engaged and making eye contact. If you're looking around trying to see who's next, what am I going to do next, the message that sends to a recruiter is I'm not interested. So you want to make sure that you're always engaged and in the moment of that discussion.
I mean, you don't have to tell somebody that you're a people person. Show them that you're a people person.
That's a great example.
Right, because you have that time in front of them to take advantage of instead of sending a resume through email.
Right.
How important is the follow-up by the job seeker that you meet at the job fair?
I think it's essential. Not everyone does follow up, and when you're in a job search, you're trying to set yourself apart from other people by both the skills that you bring, the relevant skills that you bring, and what you do. An employer always looks at the way that you approach your job search as the way that you would do a job. So if you're someone that follows through, it's really important. I always recommend that you get the recruiter's business card. You may be making a few notes while you're talking with them. I don't really recommend that. What I do recommend, however, is walk away from that table a little way, flip that business card over, and write some important notes about what you talked about. And then when you get home, you have that business card, the notes from what your conversation was, and you can personalize your follow-up with that employer. It's essential.
Right. And I think that's perfect for the nervous networker as well. you may not put your best foot forward right away in your 20, 30 seconds, and that's okay. So if they're still a little bit on the fence, I really enjoy seeing, if there's those few things that you want to follow up with, or say, I really appreciated, the opportunity that you were speaking about for here, and then, recapitalize on some of the things that you may have messed up on or stumbled on talking about yourself. It's a great way to, add that extra time when they get back to the office.
Okay. So you would suggest not taking notes in front of the employer when they're...
I think it can be distracting. I think if you do it immediately after the conversation, that's plenty of time. And you may be seeing 60 or 70 companies. You need to take some notes because it's all going to run together. And you want to make sure that you follow up on the conversation and make sure that the recruiter remembers you. And when you capture those things that you've talked about, that will help make that connection when they get home.
How about the takeaways, the freebies that they get at the table? Someone grabbing all of it, or someone who's just maybe going to grab a pen to remember the name, company name? How do you feel about people grabbing the things on the table?
I mean, I would say if they're, stealing all my Frisbees or something like that, they might not be too interested in the position if you're more worried about the marketing supplies than the actual job. I do think it's probably, take the one, show that you're interested in, that, something that you want to take, but, don't go hoarding all their materials, I imagine.
Right, it's not Halloween, you don't go trick-or-treating. And there's some cool swag, let's face it. They want you to come to their table, and it's fine, it's there. It can also be a point of getting your conversation started too, if you're talking about something. But I would not grab a bag and just rake it off into that bag as you go around the job fair.
Right.
Okay. And how do you feel about pre-registering for the event? Do you feel that that's some positive that'll help them get through the fair quicker, maybe use their time wiser?
Yeah, very helpful. I mean, especially getting on the website and knowing who's going to be there, prioritizing, getting any information updates that are going to be sent out. Very, very important.
And many times when you pre-register for a fair, you're also asked to submit a resume, and they'll create a resume book that's supplied to all the employers. That's really a good thing to do, but don't then think that I don't need to go to the job fair because they have my resume.
Right.
And also keep in mind there are some fairs that don't require a pre-registration. They're just an open fair and you just sign in when you get there. So that's one thing you just determine when you're looking at different job fairs.
Asking for their business cards when the job seeker is having that interaction with the employer and they're asking for the business cards. Is there always business cards handy? Is there information on a flyer, or should they go on the site to follow up with the job fair?
Yeah, and I think it depends on the employer. You can always go to the website. They hopefully would be sending out a business card or some kind of pamphlet. To be able to do your follow-up, you're going to need to be able to find somebody's email address. If they don't have anything, you can potentially ask for your email address or a phone number that you can call just to your follow-up with that.
Can you give me an example of job seekers that stood out to you and you remembered when they followed up with you?
I think first impressions are everything. When I see a job seeker come up that is professionally dressed and the first words out of their mouth are very professional and they are articulate, that will stick in my mind. And then as I begin the conversation, the relevance of their skills makes a big difference.
For me, I like people that are engaging, ask questions, potentially ask me a little bit about my background if am I doing the job that they're looking at, and kind of can relate some stories of different past experiences that may help tie it all in together.
Okay. Job seekers that have their own business cards, what's your take on that?
I think it's very professional, and you can do it at low cost now with printers, and just going to a local store and getting the templates. I think it can be very professional to do. I don't believe it should replace the resume, but it's always good to have business cards wherever you go. When you're at a networking event, that's what people typically do, is exchange business cards. If you don't have one, you feel a little awkward, so I would have them.
Yeah, you're advertising yourself. I think it's just another way to talk to the employer and give them something else that they can take away.
Some career fairs have different themes and different industries that are attending. How would you have the candidates prepare for those types of job fairs?
Well, it's important to understand what career fair you're going to. It could be a focused career fair. For example, it might be just employers looking for information technology candidates. And if you're not an IT person, that's not going to be a very fruitful event for you to attend. But some are more general. They'll have a lot of different career fields that are represented. So you need to do your homework to understand what the theme of the career fair is, if there is one, and realize that you may be going to one that might have, say, 20, as opposed to one that might have 100 employers.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need to probably do your homework on the industry, tailor your resume to the information and the jobs that are provided. But I think probably the most important thing would be to pre-register for that kind of event. I know when it gets to 100 employers, you can be waiting in a lot of lines. It just makes for a lot less difficulty if you pre-register.
Is there any final tips that you would provide to job seekers attending job fairs or career fairs?
I just think preparation is so important. You just cannot go to a job fair without doing that preparation and succeed. And the other thing I would say is you need to go and give yourself enough time to really network at the job fair. And remember, just because a company does a certain kind of business, and maybe that business is not what you're interested in, they may still be looking for somebody who has your skills and talents for a particular job within that company. So it's always good to talk with people and network. You never know when they may know someone in a different company who's looking for you because of all the talent and skills you have, and they will forward on their resume. We've seen that happen with recruiters at the University of Tampa.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is just to be professional. It's an environment that you're not normally going to see, and it can be awkward, but I think it'd be very fruitful, and I think practice makes perfect. So you come and get your feet wet and do your homework, and it should go easy.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have today, but if you are interested in more information on the upcoming job fairs, you can go to our website, workforcetampa.com, and you can see all the upcoming fairs that we have there on our website. I'd like to thank Stefan and Tim for coming today. Thank the viewers for joining the Getting the Most Out of Your Job Fair and Career Fair Job Hunting Series 101.
The Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance and WorkNet Pinellas offer workforce solutions designed to improve your business.
I've really valued my relationship with WorkNet Pinellas and have been instrumental in keeping us informed with new educational trends.
We've really seen our employees grow in their own personal development. It has not only exceeded Power Design's expectations, but our employees' expectations as well.
To learn more about our no-cost programs and services, visit workforcetampa.com or worknetpinellas.org.